What up, y'all? Welcome into Headkrack After Hours. There's a guy who's out here helping people get stronger. And I ain't talking about physically. I'm talking about mentally. I got my man, David McCullar. He is a part of a situation called Inception, the 21st century mental health gym. And like with this year that we've been having, I know we're all going through it. What up, David?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Yo, everything is everything, man. We're just, one day at a time trying to maneuver through the madness that has been this last, 8 to 12 months. And especially around the holidays, people kind of get in that really dark, sunken place. And this is like
Right.
around the time of year where the worst things can happen. So I guess let's start with what is Inception and what is a mental health gym?
Well, Inception is a mental health gym. I started that about 2007 with another company that I had previously. Just had a different name and rebranded some years later. But I myself was dealing with anxiety, depression, panic attacks, insomnia, and even a back injury. So at that time, I was looking for ways to help myself outside of the traditional way of, typically is talk therapy or medication.
Mhm.
And so I basically found one of the first technologies that we use at our gym. And that had helped me by decreasing my anxiety by 50% in one day. And that's unheard of in traditional pharmacology.
Mhm.
But from there, I decided that, this could definitely help people. And I was already in the field of helps. So I wanted to bring it to Michigan. And that's what I did. I started that first company called Neuro Fitness Center. And so really what Inception does is it helps people to overcome stressors and traumas, because if you look at most of our issues, they're all stress and trauma related. When we talk about mental health, we think about it just from a psychological aspect, but really it's brain and body related. Mental health actually affects you physically. Stress affects you physically. Trauma affects you physically. So our gym really helps the individual to get back access to their resources mentally and emotionally.
There's some people who are probably packaging in stress in ways that they have no idea because maybe
Mhm.
they're not like, showing it outwardly, but you're ravaging yourself inwardly. When do you know it's time to see about some alternative help for your mind, body, and your soul versus just,
Right.
continue to thug it out and self-medicating?
Well, that's the thing that we don't need to wait. And that's been our problem. We now getting to this conversation. We're talking about mental health like it's some new thing. But it's the only thing. It's the only thing that really matters. Everything that you do is mental health related. It's the driving force behind your entire existence. So you don't wait till you say, "Oh, now I got anxiety, depression." Well, you always had it. It's always been there creeping up on you, but you just never knew that you needed to take care of yourself from a mental emotional standpoint. Most people, they wait until now it's time to talk to the therapist. Now, listen, if you've been living life, that tartar on your teeth, that emotional tartar on your teeth been building up. You
Right.
ain't brushed your teeth since you've been born. So that's just really how it is. It's not about a waiting type of situation. That's what the mental health gym, we're normalizing that conversation that you need to be in this process ongoing, because that process is happening whether you know it or not. And that's why you're drinking. That's why you're going to drugs or whatever. And it doesn't have to be, we always make drinking and drugs as the worst thing. You can just scroll on Instagram and get these dopamine hits and get addicted off of stimulus.
Hmm.
And that's what I call it now, stimulus porn. The question is, what's your choice? What's your genre? What are you into? You into binge watching shows? You into, this is how we're dealing with our mental health, is this through external means. Inception is about doing it internally.
That's very important. Now, David, I feel like the pharmaceutical industry has such a stranglehold on just everything. You
Yeah.
go tell people, hey, you got this, that, and a third, as opposed to getting your diet together and maybe going somewhere and medicating. They'll be like, hey, try this drug. Next thing you know, you're dependent on it.
Right.
Um, you know, I've used, non-traditional things like, binaural beats to put
Mm-hmm.
myself in a better mood. I invested
Yep.
in this light called the Pandora Starlight, which is like a brain entrainment thing. And there's so
Okay.
many people who are not aware of these alternative things that have nothing to do
Right.
with prescription that can help improve you. Now I see that you are certified in something called brainwave, which seems like it was kind of,
Yeah.
in line with what I was just talking about. Explain what that is.
Well, one, you talked about binaural beats. I was using binaural beats back in 2004. So that's how I started. I got into this. The first technology I was using was Jose Silva's Alpha Mind training, and then
Okay.
that brought me into the binaural beat program, and then that took me to what you just described, which was brainwave optimization. The difference between those two is that, see, binaural beats is like a CD, or now you can go on YouTube, but I had a CD base at that time. That's one size fits all method that you're pushing the brain to go into a specific brain frequency, right? So with the neurofeedback, or what we do now, we place sensors on a scalp. It picks up the brainwave activity and sends your brain back to itself, so that your brain can become self-aware. And the reason why that's important is because the brain is stuck in these states of stress and trauma, even though the event has long passed and is
Right.
not happening anymore. So when the brain can see that it's still operating in that post-traumatic stress type of mode, the brain can say, well, why are we still acting like this? That event is gone. Let's relax. And that's when you come back out of that pattern. So that's what brainwave optimization or neurofeedback is. It's just giving your brain the ability to become self-aware, come out of those stressful situations. But you're absolutely right. People didn't know about that. I mean, again, I'll go back 18 years when I've been doing stuff. So I've been kind of an outlier in that regard.
Now, when you try to explain to people what those things are, and I'm guilty of this myself. Like I had a friend of mine who was trying to put me on binaural beats years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, because he did a lot of drugs. So I was like, bro, I'm not listening to you right now. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right.
because he'd always seem like he was coming from the left field. But as I started to dabble in that stuff a lot more, as you know, in the last 10 years or so, my mind has been completely blown by the unlimited potential that
Yeah.
all lies from within. I have sat and closed my eyes. I've healed myself from, like, pain that I was in physically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I have limped into a room and walked out,
Right.
because I gave myself that time to heal myself. And, so when you think about yourself, David, what are some of the flyest things that you have been able to do all from within? Just tapping into the power of your mind.
Well, let's talk. If we're gonna go there, then let's go there. So
Let's go.
that's everything. Everything is created through your mind, and everything is created twice, right? First is created within the mind, and then you manifest it outwardly. So
Mhm.
for me, like if you look at Inception, well, look what I've manifested. Look what I've created out of nothing. I'm a black kid from 8 Mile. Like I'm in a white man's genre. There's no other black men in this field to what I'm doing of alternative with these types of technologies. And then there was no blueprint for what I'm doing. So everything you see at Inception, there was no blueprint for that. I spent over probably about, I want to say about 1,000, 2,000 hours just in the float tank, flotation therapy, and,
Mhm.
and developing my mind, and going in and doing some deep visualization work. I told my mom like a couple of years ago, I saw Charlemagne start talking about mental health. And I said, I'm gonna get Charlemagne in here. And next, Charlemagne's in there. How did he get here? I didn't have any connection to Charlemagne. Is this that I put it out there mentally, emotionally, like I need to connect with this guy. And how
Mhm.
we connected was so crazy, but it made sense based on, the power of intention and putting my intention out there and what I'm looking to do. And so the same thing going forward is I look to normalize the conversation around mental health, not in this way that is being done now. I'm making it hip and cool. We have Razcast do a song for us, man. Razcast is one
That's
of the dopest
slick.
MCs.
Yes. That's the homie.
We got Havoc from Mob Deep over at Inception right now. Like, we got people coming in, and that all came from me. And then now I had other people join on. We collectively have that intention about what we're trying to do with Inception. You see this wave coming. That all comes from doing your mental emotional work, period. You can't you can be successful and not be in the best place mentally, emotionally. But what you find is once they get there, it's not enough, and
Mhm.
they still need to keep they need more money, they need more cars, they need more women. But for me, I'm coming from the standpoint of doing it from the internal and not looking for the external to validate me. The external is just an extension of who I am, but I had to do that work first. So that's a piece of that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and the rabbit hole goes very deep because we can
Yeah,
start talking
absolutely.
about astral projection and
Oh
all
yeah.
types of other fly stuff that people might not be ready. So let's start with step one. Let's just say my name is James and I have a hard time, even finding the time to even focus on myself inwardly.
Mm.
Where do you begin? How do you create those boundaries in space for you to start even the groundwork?
Man, all those words you just used is hilarious because I'm in my mind and I'm like making these connections, the groundwork. We have to start with the grounding first. We literally have to ground if you know what earthing is. It's in the 60s, they created synthetic shoes.
Okay.
And those synthetic shoes actually disconnected us from the earth. We're electromagnetic beings that are supposed to be connected to the electromagnetic ground that gives us basically the connection. It actually helps us to basically move inflammation out of our bodies. So when we talk about space, and that's in that question you ask, how do I get to space? Well, think about us as being computer, just being a computer, or you have your operating system, you have your windows open, and you have your browser open. How many tabs you got open? You got 100 tabs open, right? All using your resources. Well, we have to close some tabs out. So when your brain and your body is fighting ongoing threat and stuck in overprotection, then you don't have space. You don't have resources. So grounding is going to take one of the biggest stressors that you don't even know about that's affecting you from electromagnetic pollution, which is being in houses where you have conduits next to you, and that electromagnetic frequency is actually going into you. So we need to ground that out. Electricians know to ground themselves when they work on anything electronic,
Mhm.
right? Because if they get shocked, what happens? They don't want it to shock them and electrocute them. They want it to go into the ground. But we don't think about the dirty electricity that's hitting us that we can't see. But
Nonstop.
grounding does that. I've been sleeping grounded for the last year now, and that has been a profound shift in my mental, emotional, and physical health, and just sleeping grounded.
I mean, unpack that a little bit more. What is sleeping grounded?
So grounding again, so barefoot on the earth, right? You take your shoes off. So this is free for people. You can go outside and you can ground by putting your feet to the earth. And there's over 26 peer-reviewed studies showing you that once you do so, that one, it balances the central nervous system, which pulls you out of that fight or flight state, can bring you into parasympathetic rest and digest. And then two, that inflammation. Most of your chronic illnesses is inflammatory. You're talking about cancer, you're talking about heart disease, you're talking about strokes. That's all inflammatory diseases. And that's because you have this excess of charge in your body. You have to get that charge out. And so even if you want to go and test it, you can go get a voltage meter and you can see how charged your body is. And once you ground, it takes you to zero. You're supposed to be at zero, connecting to the earth.
That is dope.
So
That is really dope
so
because I
I
have a friend who
sleep with
talked
a
about that
grounding
so
mat though.
much. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I sleep with a grounding mat. So it's like taking the earth outside, because all homes started being grounded after the 60s. So when you plug into the ground, you have those three prongs. You have the
Mhm.
positive, negative, you have ground. When you plug it into ground, that's basically mimicking it's connected to the ground outside. So I have a sheet that I lay on that grounds me. So every night for 7, 8 hours, I'm grounded.
I am typing this down right now, so I need to
Well,
definitely
we
cop
got a
me a grounding
we got a
mat.
grounding product coming out next week, so I can definitely send you the link to the grounding product. We partner with Clint Ober, who actually rediscovered grounding, and this is the one who spent over $20 million on the studies to show the efficacy and show that this is not just some, people talking about hugging trees. This is that, but is validated. It's
Okay.
validated that hugging
And yours
trees
is
with
coming out when?
next week.
Okay, because I got an itchy trigger finger. I'd be,
Oh, I can give I
it'd be
can
in the
give it to
cart.
you. I can give it to you after the show.
Now I
So
want to I want to support what you're doing because
okay.
I believe in it so much because I've seen it work. There's so many things.
Mhm.
Sometimes I watch movies and like everything that appears to be science fiction in a movie be like, yo, like that's the real part, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things that it's capable of doing. So, you talked about being grounded. There's so many things that take your mind off of the prize sometimes too, like the calcification of your pineal gland, right?
Mm.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who is like, yo, don't do this, don't do that. Where do you fall in as it relates to like a lot of those, theories?
I think that's accurate, but I think that before we start going to the calcification of our pineal gland, let's heal our trauma first.
Mm,
Because you can, oh, my pineal gland is decalcified, but you still got all that trauma in your life. You're
yeah.
still reacting to the unresolved childhood trauma you've experienced. So you woke, but you still sleepwalking at the same time. Like you got to go there first. But I do agree, you drinking the water. Like I use a black mica extract that actually pulls all the toxins out of the water. I mean, from pharmaceutical drugs, the plastics. So the plastics acts as a endocrine disruptor. So because it's synthetic estrogen. So if
Hmm.
you pull up a study and type in, look and see how male fish start turning into female, having female traits when they start pumping the water into the lake. This was like on MSNBC or something like that, or NBC, one of those news shows. I don't watch the news, but I saw the clip. So it shows you that drinking poor water quality alone is going to throw you off mentally, emotionally, and keep you in that Walking Dead kind of zombie mode. So I do agree with that, absolutely. But at the same time, let's do the other work too.
Got you. I mean, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So, all right. So we talked about staying grounded. We talked about trying to, declutter some of the tabs that may be occupying some of our mental bandwidth. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we go from there to continue the healing?
Issues are in the tissues of the body. So anything that's it's emotional thermodynamics. So all your emotions that you didn't feel and you didn't process, guess where it's at? It's in your body. So the issues are in the tissues. It's tension. So when we think about aches and pains in our bodies, we always think about like, well, did I pick something up, or did I, and like you said to yourself, you was using the binaural beats, and now this pain you had in your body left. Well, what was that pain?
It
Did you
wasn't
hurt?
even the binaural beats that cured the pain. Like I had a very important interview to go do. I wasn't interviewing somebody. Somebody was interviewing me. I was in a bad shape. I was out of town, and I'm
Mm,
like, yo, this is too important. So I asked for the universe to give me the best version of myself, even if it was just for 12 hours.
right.
And I limped to the Airbnb that I was staying at. I walked out of there upright, like the last person on the evolutionary chart. You know what I
Mm,
mean? I had no pain, had an excellent interview. Everything popped off the way it was supposed to pop off. But it's just like, my antenna for my supreme manifestation abilities, it's been kind of broken for a minute. Like ever since my mom
mm,
passed, I'm
yeah.
probably dealing with a lot of the same
A
things
lot of grief.
that
Yeah.
you're talking about. And,
Mm,
there's those flickers of light and brightness where I feel like I am as strong as I used to be mentally and metaphysically. And then there's sometimes where I'm like, yo, I want to crawl up in a ball because I feel like I got nothing left to give people. And I'm just trying things to try to like, heal some of these things. But I know I have a lot of work to do, but I have to create some of that space that you was just talking about. I guess I am James. I got to create some of that space,
right.
that we.
Well, it's cool too that just to realize that your mom passed away, man. That's I just empathize with you on that. Like that's a major thing for us to experience. I think about that for my parents, and that's a
Mhm.
dreadful moment that I don't even want to think about. But I go there at times, and understanding that that's going to be a hard part of our transition in life when our parents are no longer here, whether we love them or not. I've seen people, they didn't have good relationships with their parents and they passed away, and it still bothers you, and
Mhm.
that's grief. I wouldn't tell people like, oh, you just need to do some brain training. And no, it's going to be an ongoing thing. Grief is a necessary process, and we don't cut that process out. But at the same time, you still need to actually do the things that are helpful for you in terms of your mental emotional health. But understanding you're not going to push that into further deep depths of healing, because but your mom, that's always there. You're always going to kind of experience that to a degree.
Yeah, it's been tough to navigate. Like and it's been creeping on 2 years and some change now. But it's still the nerve is still raw. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
right,
like, I tried to make solace with it. Like, hey, at least I know where she is.
right.
Because there would be times where like my mom be a little AWOL a little bit. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so dealing with a lot of that, but also trying to help so many other people in the process.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like that joke on the Watchmen. It was like the guy goes to the psychiatrist, like, yo, I'm having a hard time, I'm depressed, who should I see? You should see the great clown Pagliacci. And the guy starts
Mm.
crying, I am Pagliacci. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, right, right.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it gets tricky. But when you think of some of the success stories and the people that you've actually helped with this Inception program and the mental health gym, what are some of the notable ones that you can tell us about?
Um, Notable people we
I mean, you
had.
don't even have to like put people's names in it, but just like,
Right.
cases and situations. I know there's HIPAA laws in place and stuff like that.
Right. Well, we had, they may not be notable, but I'll tell a story about a young lady, and I can actually share her stories because she's out there with it. She came from the Bahamas, and so on the island, and she went to the psychiatrist, the therapist, because her boyfriend had died in a car crash years ago, and ever since then she had just been depressed. And even though she went to the therapist, psychiatrist, they really couldn't help her. Even though they've done everything that they know to do. And she found me on IG. And
Wow.
next, she messages me, and I get messages all the time about coming to the gym. Some people are, really want to come, and some people, don't. But she said I want to come, and she came, and she spent 2 weeks with us.
Mm.
She did our circuit program for 2 weeks, and I told her, I said, that's a lot. Like I said, trust me. Are you sure you want to do this? Because that's a lot. And she said, yeah. So she came, and when she came, by the time I want to say about a third or fourth day, looked totally different. She
Really?
came in very depressed looking. By the third or fourth day, she's like a totally different person. But before that, the second, third day, she missed her appointments in the morning. Like she was missing her appointments. So I called her. I said, hey, what's going on? You like missing your appointments? She's like, I'm sorry. I've just been sleeping. And that was a great thing because what happened was her body finally went into actually rest and digest.
Got
So
you.
when it went into rest and digest, her body's saying, yeah, now let's get these deeper realms of sleep. So I was like, okay, it's great that you missing your appointment. That's no problem because I know what's happening for you. Now to this day, they're looking to put a Inception in the Bahamas because of her experience. Like you would never know to this day that she had went through an experience that she went back home and everybody said, what happened to you? Like, what did you do? Where did this person go? You're a whole new person. And it makes sense because like I said, the issues are in the tissues of the body. And she just got some space and got her resources back where her body was able to begin to rest and digest and come out of this stress and trauma mode. So that's one of our success stories that we had that, every time I see her, I'm just happy because this girl, she didn't know what to do with her life, after
Man.
that event.
I mean, y'all doing some amazing stuff, man. And I'll be checking out, your social media as well. And it's just, always just enlightening to see people become enlightened
Yeah.
and find out the other options and things that are out there. So let's just say if somebody comes to the mental health gym for a session, what does a typical session entail?
So we do 3 different services in a circuit model. It's kind of like the gym model, which is a gym. So we do the Magnosphere, we do brain training, and we do flotation therapy. And we do all that in 90 minutes. So you're spending 30 minutes at each station. So by the time you're done with that 90 minutes, it's like we hit you over the head with deep levels of relaxation. So you don't even, you haven't experienced this before because there's nothing out there that really gives you this response like that in these 3 different dimensions. So we take a bi-directional approach with training the brain and the body. So we don't consciously we don't talk to you. And that's another thing. People come and they think they're talking to people. It's not talk therapy. We're helping the systems of your body to rest and to find space and get its resources back because the only thing that truly heals you is your immune system. So we're supporting the immune response that your body has the capability of doing is healing itself.
Right.
We've been lied to. We think our bodies Like your body is in a constant state of healing. The problem is when the body is overwhelmed, the body's like, hey man, I can't do all of this healing at the same time. I can't fight, the childhood trauma that you had. I can't fight the car accident that you had. I can't fight the breakup that you just had and fight COVID at the same time. Right?
It's a
So
lot.
our services, no stimulus. Think about it. All that I just described is nothing but stimulus. It's nothing but a loop. So when you remove the stimulus, then you have the space. Between stimulus and response, you have choice. So when people come out, they find that they have way more space in their consciousness to be able to make decisions. This game is all about becoming self-aware. Self-awareness gives you ability to make changes. People can't make change if they're not aware.
That's brilliant right there, man. That's a cool place to pause it right there. Yo, David, if people want to come check out the mental health gym, whether it's online or maybe you happen to just be in the Detroit area and you want to
Yep.
breeze through, where can they go? How can they find you easily?
Right. So I'm gonna give you both our Instagram pages. My page is Mr. David McCullar, McCullar. I do a lot of education on that page, so it's really good to go there. And then the Inception page is at I_am_Inception. And also you can find us at inceptionep.com for our website. We're in Farmington Hills, which is about 15 minutes away from Detroit off Northwestern Highway. But you can find our address on that website.
Yo, thank you so much for using your talents, man, to do so much for so many people, man. This is dope. And I definitely want to work very closely with you in the future because I believe in this. I know what it can do. And
Right.
and it's just so dope to talk to people that talk my language, man. Cause like, some people you try to have the same conversation with them and they have no idea what you're talking about. Especially that flotation therapy. I did it
Yeah.
one time and I could tell you, yo, I was so at peace during that. Like it was before my mom passed. I was just doing it just to
Right.
do it. Because
Yeah.
once I started realizing I had these ill abilities, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to sharpen them and just do
Yeah.
everything I could to keep them sharp. And that was one of the things I thoroughly enjoyed. There was so much salt in there, I couldn't drown if I tried.
Right.
Like it was really cool and relaxing, man. So
Yeah. And
everybody, you
I
deserve that.
spent about when I first got the tank up and going, I spent 35 days floating every day for an hour to almost 2 hours a day.
That's
Changed my life.
a lot of bags of salt.
well, I mean, it's all recycled, so it's all,
Okay.
yeah,
But nah,
but
that's an amazing thing, man. So we're dropping the information below, not only in the video, but also below. So be sure you click on the
okay,
link, follow my brother right here. And we definitely need to tap back in the near future, man, and build on some more
absolutely,
things, my brother. Cool.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for pulling up, man. That's David McCullar, y'all. Inception Mental Health Gym. See about it. Info below, okay?